All right, welcome back, everybody. My name is, oh, here I am. My name is Wes, and I am here to introduce and kind of lead us through a segment on sharing about our 381 days of racial justice. So if you've been on Seawell, you probably heard about the 381 days of racial justice. It's a thing that we started last June and remarkably ended this last Tuesday, the 381 days. And we chose that period of time in recognition of the persistence and the 381 days it took to complete the Montgomery bus boycott. But it's been a time for us of focusing on learning and prayer and action in racial justice. And during these last few weeks and for a couple weeks to come, we're having folks share on their experience of that time. And again, the spirit of the sharing is not, oh, it's over, what we learned, we're done. It's what did we learn and what do we need to do to kind of continue in that persistence to seek God's justice. So today we have two women from our church going to share, Lynn Lee and Kim Winkleman, and they're going to share a little bit about their experience both individually and together. So Lynn and Kim, I have a few questions for you.
Hi, Wes. Hi, everyone.
The first one is, hi, oh, there you are. So the first question I have for you, hopefully you're ready. So you guys chose to share together, and I'm wondering if you could say a little bit about why you decided to do this, and could you tell us some about how the dynamics of your relationship was important to your experience of practicing racial justice?
Yes. So we wanted to share together, partly because I feel like we have both done a lot of like book reading and listening to podcasts and doing things to try to learn and grow in our racial justice and awareness and all this stuff. But it really feels like that the book learning and all that cannot happen in isolation, apart from being in relationships with people. And that I think such a large part of my growth and learning has come from being in a relationship, a partnership with someone who will challenge me, listen, or who I can listen to and learn from. And so there was one moment in particular. It's not like Lynn and I have like it's not like we've been best friends forever, or we were never roommates or whatever. We've just been in church for a long time together. But there was one moment about a year ago that we were having a conversation, and something that I said just didn't sit right with Lynn. And it was sort of after the fact that she came back and said, like, I want to know more, like, where did that come from? What do you mean? And sort of pushed me in some ways that was challenging and helped me like look at myself and see where things are coming from in me. But that was a really pivotal moment, I think, in knowing that this is a partnership or friendship where that can happen, where that kind of honesty and I don't know, growth can happen.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say?
Yeah, so I think sometimes I think in terms of topic sentences. And so how the topic sentence that I would say about our friendship is that I think of it as intimacy across racial difference. And that's somehow, I mean, Kim and I, like Kim said, we've never been roommates or housemates, we've never really hung out regularly together, but we've lived life in church together for quite a while. And so it was a choice, I think, for both of us to enter into intimacy across racial difference. And by the word intimacy, I'm sort of referring to Dr. Willie James Jennings' use of the word. And I'm thinking about like a deep and loving friendship that's built on vulnerability with one another. And for the two of us, that's been really important as a backdrop and context to pursuing racial justice.
Nice. So could you, I know you guys already started to highlight some of how your relationship worked, but could you talk about, each of you talk about something that was really significant for you that you might want to highlight from the 381 days?
Yeah, so I mean, we have read some books together. The Willie James Jennings book, the Christian Imagination was.
That's a short book.
It was challenging. Our life group read it, and it was, it's a dense read, but it was so good for us to do it together, and for me not to just hear like or think about how is this impacting me, but to hear how is it impacting Lynn, or how is she feeling about it, or the other folks in our life group, that for me to like just hear how are you responding to this, to other people. I think, what else? I've lost track of the question.
Well, okay. So, I mean, to answer your question, Wes, I thought about this book as well. And I think that might be a sort of strange answer in that a lot of the things that we've been practicing or pursuing during the 381 days of racial justice is that we've been acting. So we've been phone banking, and I think both Kim and I did those things and were very appreciative of it, especially doing those things within the context of the CWOW community. But this book reading together was also extremely important in shaping our internal selves in the pursuit of racial justice. And so I think we didn't want to leave that out. Dr. Jennings' book, as we read it and discussed it together, got us into some challenging and perplexing conversations. And I'm going to bring up the word intimacy again, because so this book has a lot of big ideas, and I probably didn't understand 50% of what he wrote, but one of the ideas that we latched onto was the idea of true intimacy. And intimacy that actually originates from being intimately connected with the land. And I realized that in throwing that out, it may be, you may be thinking, if you're anything like Kim or I, like, what does that even mean? And I just want to say that,
and we don't totally know yet.
But he gave us like an imagined idea. Instead of relating to each other based on racial hierarchy, he gave us this renewed, like the beginnings of a renewed imagination that helped us to identify each other based on intimate connection to the land. And we're so disconnected from that, I think it doesn't help us to know what that means. But I think for me, it's the beginning of something very deep. And it's something that our group talked a lot about. And I guess my hope is that, or maybe the other thing I want to say is it's very related to the idea that Kim and I are trying to pursue intimacy across racial difference.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I thought one other thing I thought of, like what's been significant for me is I've done a lot of, another thing that we did last year was telling our immigrant ancestral stories. So
Yeah.
looking back at our families, where did our our ancestors, when did they come to the US and or to the America, and the story of our people, our and we listened to each other's stories and told each other stories, and that, and then the book group that I was in that did that read Unsettling Truths. I feel like I've really learned a lot about, or just done a lot of reflecting on the land that I live on, the land that my ancestors came to, and where did we, why are we in this, why are we on the land that we're on, and how did we come to have or own, or I don't know. It's a lot of like looking at indigenous people and lands, and I don't know, just a lot of thinking about that. But that also has fed into the learning that we've been doing. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think maybe we've said a lot of things, but maybe one overall point I want to make is that in doing practices with the rest of you, but also in book reading and in discussing with one another, it's starting to change us internally as well as, and resulting in an outflow of external action. So I think that's one thing that we've talked about a lot, that this is a transformation. In pursuing racial justice, we're looking to be transformed inside and out, and in community.
Any encouragement or last words you would want to leave with the CWOW community? This is your chance to say something profound.
Well, I mean, this is not profound, but I feel like
Well, you already said many profound things. I wasn't trying to, but leave us with something.
I mean, as a white person and for white people, I feel like, and one of the reasons why I didn't want to do this by myself, like just share my own story or whatever, is that I feel like one of the biggest learnings that the main thing that I've learned is like that white people need to talk less and listen more. And even, I don't know, Jennings talks about like white people who come in as the host, as opposed to the guest. I want to be a better guest. And so I'm trying to listen more. I mean, not like I'm good at it. Ask more questions and listen more and talk less, but I'm not very good at it yet.
I think maybe the last word that I want to leave for folks is that pursuing intimacy with each other and including across racial difference is hard work, but it's rewarding and it bears fruit that results in whole person transformation.
Wow.
So that's my encouragement.
What about, I mean, what would you say? I remember we talked about like having the kind of conversation that we had a year ago. I feel like that was really significant and it's rare. and I'm really conscious of, like, as a white person, I don't want to put it on people of color to teach me, right? That's not a burden that we need to put on people of color to teach me, and yet it was so significant to have you approach me with something, with a blind spot, to show me my blind spot. And I don't like expect that of you, and yet there's a way that I feel like I know you will do that. I don't know. It's one of the things I hope for our church, that we'll have more of that, more conversations where we can actually talk to each other about, this is hurtful to me, or I don't understand why you did this, or I don't know. You want to say something about how that came to be, or?
Yeah. Do you have a question for me, Kim?
Why did you, what made you take that risk? It was risky and costly for you.
Yeah. So I think although we haven't like been best buds or whatever, I have known Kim for quite a while in the context of Christian community. And so there are some things that I feel true to be about Kim in particular, which is I think that she's an open person, and that if I approach her with something uncomfortable, that she will not run away from me. So she's a person that I kind of trust, that will be in continued conversation and relationship with me to work some of these things out. So this is I think, specific to this particular friendship. That I chose into. So it was both a choice and just based on some of the things that I've already known about Kim.
So maybe that's the other thing that I want Seawell folks, I want white people to hear, is like that we have to let go of shame and defensiveness, and be willing to hear hard things and not run away from them. And to enter in knowing that, like, it's hard, it's scary, whatever, but to not let my defensiveness and shame, to not make me run away.
And for me, it was also important to know that if I didn't, like, just that I'm not going to say things, it's a messy conversation, but potentially very fruitful.
Yeah, we're not going to say things right all the time.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity to be afraid of things that will be really good for you, if that makes sense. Yeah. Wow, well, that's powerful sharing, you guys. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your transparency and ability to be vulnerable with us, and just an insight into kind of how God's working in us and in you. So thanks so much.
Yeah.
And I'm sure these guys want to tell you all about it more if you see them sometime in person or virtually.
Yeah, we'll tell you about this book we read.
That's right.
I read that book too. Quite a book. All right.